Special thanks to the Game Archivist for providing the gameplay footage used in this review, because I could not be arsed to re-download and record the game myself. Link to their video is in the description. Enjoy the video!
Hey folks, well, you know what time it is. You guys voted on what game you want me to do a review on that I've previously looked at on the channel. And despite one vote for a different game, every other vote was for the exact same thing. A game that I once found to be on par with, Reverse 1999 for its exceptional otherworldly quality. Now just a laughing joke of what it used to be. You know which game I'm talking about. I did one video on it, and then it proceeded to fall off the face of the fucking planet. It's time to talk about Honkai Star Rail.
Hi caramba, what the hell did I just get myself into? Honkai Star Rail is the creation of Hoyoverse and was released for mobile phones, PC, and console back in April of 2023. It was the next ambitious release after Genshin Impact, which had come out 3 years earlier. As I'm sure you guys remember, I used to like Genshin. Until it went to shit. Almost immediately after Genshin went under, I started looking for another game to play to occupy my time. That game, as we all know, is Reverse 1999, which I pre-registered for and have played since its launch. You guys already know what I think about that game. Well, sometime last year, I started looking for another game to play alongside it, and lo and behold, that game ended up being Honkai Star Rail. I thought this game was pretty solid at first. Turn-based combat that doesn't demand I give myself carpal tunnel syndrome to play it. A more sci-fi aesthetic compared to what Genshin Impact had to offer, which is automatically a plus in my book. And it looked like it was taking steps to keep its 4-star characters somewhat relevant alongside its 5 stars. I was down with that. We all know nowadays that simply isn't the case anymore. 90% of the 4-star characters and a lot of the 5-star ones end up falling off hard toward the end of the game. But back in the day, this game managed to maintain a pretty decent balance of power between its new and old characters. But as we all know, power creep came in and completely curb stomped that idea into the ground. But we'll get to that.
And before we go any further, guys, I just want to say that much like my, Reverse 1999 video, I'm going to be doing my best to keep this video spoiler free because, this game has quite the story to it, and I just feel like spoiling it in a video is just gonna ruin some of that magic that comes with, experiencing one of these story-heavy games for, like the first time. So, I'm gonna be doing my best to keep the spoilers to the bare, the bare minimum. But, if you're worried about any potential spoilers about anything, I would highly encourage you to go, go play the game first, experience it for yourself, then come back here and see what I have to say about it, because more than likely, that's what you're here for, to hear, my opinions on this thing, and I am deeply appreciative of that. But for those of you who are here now and, wish to stay, well, I hope you don't mind me, occasionally stuttering and, hemming and hawing over the video, because I want to actually, voice this one myself instead of just, relying on ElevenLabs to do it for me. I gotta save those credits for a different video that, I've got planned. I'll talk about that on Blue Sky later.
And since I won't be talking about spoilers in this review, that also means I'm going to be keeping the story section of this review relatively short because, I don't want to spoil anything, so there's no sense dragging out that section as long as I possibly can. Our story opens on a space station. Wow, why am I suddenly getting Time Splitters 2 vibes all of a sudden? Maybe I'm just in the mood to play a game that isn't mid. We see this woman named Kafka. Is anyone else thinking Final Fantasy VI when they hear that name? Infiltrating the space station. Apparently on some kind of mission to do, something. Again, don't want to spoil the story. The Antimatter Legion invades, we get into a few battles, and we're soon joined by Kafka's ally, Silverwolf, a master class hacker who, I don't know, I'm always, reminded of Razor from Genshin Impact whenever I see her. After a few more battles and some exploration, we eventually locate what this game calls a Stellaron, which is where our protagonist comes in. Kalis or Stel, depending on their gender, house a Stellaron inside of them, which by this universe standards is pretty unusual. They appear to have some connection to this woman Kafka and her friend, but before we can get any concrete answers, we black out. Typical. We eventually wake up to a pair of voices belonging to two other people we've never met before, Dan Heng and March 7th. And yes, that is her name, March 7th. What I think of 26 from the Donatopia movie every time I hear that name come up.
My name is 26. 26 is a number.
Then again, I guess nowadays I should be thinking of 37 from Reverse 1999. I'm getting off topic here. But as it turns out, there's a reason she calls herself March 7th, but again, I won't spoil it here, you'll have to see it for yourself. Anyway, the Antimatter Legion are still, running amok, causing chaos, so after arming ourselves and after a brief combat crash course, including saving March 7th from being vaporized, we finally board what becomes our primary hub for this adventure, the Astral Express, a train-like spacecraft that can travel along the Star Rail, a network of pathways between worlds created from imaginary energy, substance. I'm not sure how it works. To me, it just sounds like a convenient excuse for a flying space train that can go pretty much anywhere fucking once. All the while being watched over and conducted by the cutest and most awesome conductor ever, Pom Pom. We don't know who he is or even what he is, but he helps keep the train running, so that's something. He's nowhere near as obnoxious as Paimon was from the last game. I mean, he's the one who gives you your rewards whenever you level up and all that stuff. We learn that Stellarons all across the universe have appeared and are beginning to wreak havoc on the innocent people of the many planets the Star Rail is connected to, and have even begun to corrupt the Star Rail itself, which, as we all know, is very bad. You ever see the Polar Express? There's a reason you don't screw with the rails the train travels on. Next thing you know, it's sliding along ice and a magic hobo is appearing out of nowhere to save you from falling off the damn... Okay, yeah, I need to stop getting sidetracked. It becomes pretty apparent that the main character, referred to as the Trailblazer, is missing a huge chunk of their memory. Besides a few memories of Kafka right before they blacked out on the space station, they can't remember a thing. With nowhere else to go and with tons of unanswered questions, the Trailblazer acknowledges that Stellarons are bad news and joins up with the Astral Express crew to travel the galaxy, rid the cosmos of the Stellaron threat, and find some answers to their lost memories. And that sets up Honkai Star Rail. If it sounded like I was being vague or leaving some things out, I humbly apologize, guys. That's about as detailed as I can get without spoiling anything major. Much like Reverse 1999, this is one of those story-heavy games that benefits greatly from a totally blind playthrough. There really isn't much I can go over without spoiling anything and ruining that magic of, going into it for the first time. So all I can really tell you is, just go play for yourself. Assuming the issues with the game don't end up driving you away from it before you can finish it.
Oh, God, I am so glad I'm keeping this review spoiler-free so I don't have to dissect the whole fucking story. Because this one's pretty bloated. Yeah, especially since, I didn't even finish this game's story. I got about as far as the 4th planet, I think, the festival one, whatever it's called, before I eventually called it quits. I was logging in, doing my daily, grinding in this game, as you do in these sorts of games. Then all the freaking power creep updates started dropping, and I just could not cope with it, That's when I ended up dropping the game. But we will talk about that later, because right now, this may be a heavy story-focused game, but just like, that last one, Reverse 1999, there is an actual game to this game, and we're going to talk about it. And, one thing I have to compliment this game on right away is that much like, Reverse 1999, it didn't try to cram a world the size of, Breath of the Wild onto a little device that can't handle a world of that size and scope. So yeah, that's always good. So why does this game's file size rival that of Genshin Impact? Strap in, boys and girls. We're in for a pretty big one here.
Hang on, Bulldozer Man. You're not doing this solo.
Melody, what the hell are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be guarding the power metals?
Chris volunteered to watch them for me. I had to come join you for this video. I did the last review myself, after all.
You do realize I can do these reviews on my own, right? I got sidetracked with Minecraft for, a little bit there, because, I'm still coping with this bullshit in my daily life, but...
Bruh. It's literally been several days since you started working on this review, and you didn't even finish the story section yet. The fact your shirt changed between scenes with no explanation says it all. You need help on this one.
Yeah, I know. Changing the shirt because it's been a few days. Listen, when you're dealing with a game the size of this one, it takes a long time to do, alright? And I don't think very highly of this game anymore, so there's understandably going to be periods where I just don't want to talk about it. Especially, when I'd rather be playing good games like Reverse 1999. It's hard to compete with the pinnacle of this genre.
Well, you promised these people a review, so that's what they're getting. You'll just have to man the fuck up and deal with it.
Now you guys see what I have to deal with on a regular basis.
Okay, so I guess I owe it to Melody to actually let her join me in this video, considering she kind of got sidelined in the whole Pac-Man Fever video. But, for good reason, obviously, so... Melody, if you really want to, why don't you, do this next part?
Gladly. If there's one thing we learned from the commenters on the Reverse 1999 review, it's that self-insert main characters in gacha games tend to not pan out well. Blue Potch Games learned this lesson very well from Hoyoverse after Genshin Impact, when they made Vertin. She is not a self-insert main character. She's her own character with her own personality, likes, connections, the works, which makes it easier to connect with her on a personal level throughout Reverse's story. One criticism I saw several times about Genshin is that it's nearly impossible to connect with Aether or Lumine on a personal level, because they have no emotional connection to anybody prior to beginning the game. No real overall character growth. No real personality besides what makes them the protagonist. Nothing. If it weren't for the fact they could speak in certain cutscenes, I'd label them as just as much of a block of wood as Link from Ocarina of Time, without the wonderfully written characters of Majora's Mask for him to bounce off of. And unfortunately, Honkai Star Rail falls into the exact same trap. Besides a few specific cutscenes here and there, the Trailblazer is pretty much the same sort of piece of wood as the hero of Genshin Impact, especially in the early and mid-game. And without spoiling anything, I'll just say that the problem doesn't improve by much in the late game. In fact, it even gets worse a lot of the time. The Trailblazer often ends up feeling unnecessary to the advancement of the plot, or is just straight up not even there in some instances. They go from an emotional block of wood to not even being relevant in their own damn story. Can anyone tell me why? Why bother making such a heavily story-focused game if they weren't going to do anything with the Trailblazer? They're more insufferable and unnecessary than anything for the most part, and they're the star of this damn thing. I don't care if it's so we could project ourselves into their shoes or anything like that. LOOOOOONG Games got this right, mere months after Honkai Star Rail came out. The very least they could have done is course-correct the main story so the main character doesn't feel like such a blank piece of wood. And sadly, it isn't just the narrative where the main character falls short. God forbid, let's get into the gameplay. Take it away, Bulldozer Man.
So Honkai Star Rail plays out like a pretty straightforward traditional JRPG. There's no real-time combat, no action RPG elements here. It's all turn-based strategy battles. Every unit takes turns attacking the other side. The higher your speed, the more likely you'll get to act before they do. And if you can't kill all the enemies in one turn, they get their chance to attack you. Simple stuff by, today's standards, but in true Hoyoverse fashion, they had to find some way to spice it up. Every character has a basic attack, a skill, and an ultimate. Using basic attacks generates skill points you can spend to use their skills, and when they've dealt enough damage and taken enough hits to completely fill up their energy, they can unleash a powerful ultimate. These do everything from damaging all the enemies at once, to providing powerful bonuses, and in general, simply throw the battle into further chaos. In practice, I like this combat system. It doesn't demand you be pressing 50 different buttons in rapid succession to dodge, attack, heal, etc. like Genshin Impact did. It lets you control, like the pace of the battle, and much like Reverse 1999, there's even a fast forward option if you want to speed everything up, and an auto battle function if you want to put the game down and, let it play itself while you, go fetch a cold one. Excellent design. Of course, much like Genshin Impact, there's different types of characters following different paths like destruction, abundance, preservation, etc., and different elements at play in this game. Some elements like fire, ice, etc. return from Genshin, just renamed to fit this game better. But we also got some brand new ones in there to spice things up. Attacking an enemy with an element they're weak to will drain their toughness, and when it's completely depleted, they become stunned for a couple of rounds and have their defenses pretty much drop to zero, making for squishy kills. This allows for very dynamic combat scenarios where it might be more beneficial to try and break this one enemy's toughness to prevent them from doing a powerful attack, or have one guy kill this enemy while everyone else gangs up on the one with less toughness. Now, it isn't a straightforward romp all throughout. There will be many instances during the game where it throws you into a scenario that's almost unwinnable without the right team, which you may or may not be able to obtain due to this game's inherent nature as a gacha game. Depending on how deep your pocketbook is and how much, RNG and luck decide to screw you over, you could either be ridiculously overpowered for the challenge at hand, or get completely curb stomped. And there's almost never in between, especially when you start getting into some of the side content toward the end of the game. And boy, oh boy, does this game have side content.
At least I can comfortably say, exploring the open world between all that fighting and side content is much less of a hassle in this game compared to Genshin. The open world is broken up into many different areas, and since you can't even jump, glide, or climb walls in this game, there's no real worry about getting lost. It shouldn't take you very long to find the way forward. There's even special skills every character can use in the open world to enhance your combat prowess before you engage an enemy in battle. Some provide buffs and healing when the fight begins. Some deal damage to the enemies before the battle starts. Hell, some like Firefly let you skip combat outright or give the enemies a nasty little jump scare, getting all 5 nights at Freddy's up in this bitch. And like Bulldozer said earlier, the size and scale of this world is drastically scaled down from Genshin's, so it shouldn't take you more than a few minutes to get where you need to go. And you can even teleport straight to areas that provide resources you need for character and light cone development. Oh, by the way, light cones are pretty much this game's equivalent to weapons from Genshin Impact. But thankfully, the Ascension materials for them are not restricted to specific days like in that game, so you can farm them whenever you want, as long as you have enough energy for it. Yes, there is an energy system in this game. That's just to be expected of gacha games at this point. Although thankfully, this one hands out energy replenishing items like candy, and you can even store a shitload of energy in your overflow, which you can pull from anytime you need more. On top of the fact you have more energy in general in this game compared to Genshin, it's much easier to grind materials for character and light cone development in this game, as well as relics, this game's version of artifacts, which are also necessary to attain victory.
Which unfortunately doesn't mean that it's entirely possible for the RNG to completely screw you over if you don't get exactly what you need. There will be many times when you run that specific instance or battle for the 20th fucking time, don't get what you need, and have to either spend money or wait a full day just to try again. Nerves will be tested, patience will be exhausted, and tempers will flare during the grind to get a fully equipped and leveled up party. There's main stats, substats, and set bonuses to consider when going for relics, and you will need to factor all these things into play when building your loadout. Thankfully, there is an option later in the game to craft relics you need using a special item recycled from sacrificed relics. And while all the materials you need to craft a specific relic you want can be really annoying to get, it isn't limited to once per battle cycle like in Genshin. Thank the good lord. So through patience and preservation, as well as making sure you do the events when they come around, it is possible to get decently equipped for the challenges that lie ahead. Although how quickly you get there is going to be heavily luck dependent. I will say that this game does hand out Stellar Jades, this game's premium currency that lets you make pulls on the gacha itself, much faster and much more frequently than Genshin Impact did, so it is a lot easier to save up pulls for the gacha. I'd say it's equal to, reverse 1999 in that case. As for the gacha itself, well, it's not quite as good as reverse 1999, but I will say it's a lot better than Genshin Impacts. You guys may recall that I made over 130 pulls on Genshin's standard banner trying to get Kaching, but instead I got a 5-star weapon from the Hard Pity that wasn't even supposed to be on that banner that I couldn't even use. I've heard horror stories of how stingy Genshin's gacha mechanic is, so much so it even landed Hoyoverse in legal trouble with the FTC not too long ago. Great game or not, enticing kids and teens to buy more gacha pulls because your game's gacha mechanic is bullshit will do nothing but make me groan in frustration. This is one element I'm glad gacha games lightened up on going forward. Honkai Star Rail can still be really frustrating if RNG doesn't favor you, but at least it's not as bad as Genshin Impact was. It's still not quite up there with Reverse 1999 though, so all I can really give it is a not as bad as it could be award.
Oof. Yeah, fair enough. To be fair though, Genshin Impact was the game that put gacha games on the map, so it was an experimental phase at the time. At least Hoyo would lighten up on this mechanic going forward. And to get back to the side content, there is a lot of it here. Besides the events that give you the chance to get some really high-end special items you'll need for your team, there's multiple side quests scattered all across every planet that helps build this game's lore and the world around you. There's puzzles to solve to get access to more loot. There's optional game modes that give you more to do and more to see if you're bored of the main story. And there's even a few cheeky references to Genshin Impact scattered around, like the wind glider being in the Herta space station. I giggled like a little girl when I saw that for the first time. And for the most part, the bulk of this side content gives you things that can help you develop your team and progress the main story, so none of it really feels like you're just wasting your time. Besides the cat cake creation, things. On the Herta space station, what the fuck was that all about? Someone's getting a power blast up the ass for letting that fever dream make it into the game. But anyway, the point is, it's got a lot of awesome side content in it, which as a player who likes to grind everything before moving forward with a game, I'm certain is something you can appreciate. Right, Bulldozer Man?
Are you out of your fucking mind? This shit is the worst!
Whoa, what?
Okay, I do admit, this game has a lot of good content in it. Many of the events can be legitimately entertaining if you need a break from the main story, and I love some of the endgame bosses too. They're large and in charge, and it feels so good to lay a smackdown on them like this is, I don't know, freaking Stone Cold Steve Austin or some shit like that. But what does any of that mean when the rest of the events, side content, and even some of the endgame main story is drowned in some of the worst game design I've ever seen in a video game? Okay, one thing at a time here. Much like Genshin Impact, you're expected to form a decent combat party with the powers and abilities of the characters you have, which will be different for every player depending on how lucky you are at the gacha, and possibly how big your wallet is. But if you want to talk about an endgame that throws 90% of its character roster right off the face of the fucking earth, look no further than the big elephants in the room whenever discussion about this game comes up. HP inflation and power creep. Jesus Christ, the bosses near the end of the game get so friggin' tanky. Even in E6 fully maxed Firefly couldn't carve through it. And speaking of Firefly, she's considered a top tier DPS character in this game, and one I'm proud to say I got the chance to use when she was at her peak. She ripped and tore through everything in her way like a hot knife to a stick of butter. But then Hoyoverse decided to come in and power creep the hell out of her by bringing in the Harmony Trailblazer and the triple Harmony team comp with them and completely screw Firefly over. And with how much HP inflation is going on with the bosses now, you need this triple Harmony team comp to have a comfortable time getting past these new threats. And it doesn't matter if it's during the main story or side content, you will run into plenty of roadblocks trying to clear new content that if you don't have the right team comp for it, you will get massacred. And if you can't shell out the money to get these characters, well, sucks to be you. And yes, I know the similar issue can occur in Reverse 1999 as well, but that game handed out free gacha pulls and characters like candy on a regular basis, and the HP inflation was thankfully kept to a minimum. You only really see something of the sort in the main's bulletin events, where the main goal is to do as much damage as possible before time runs out. On top of that, Reverse had the Euphoria system to ensure older characters don't fall off entirely, which in the case of great support units like Villa, pretty much ensured they're future-proofed against any future power creep. Since her healing is consistent enough that it can keep up with the endgame boss's damage, and her buff, boosts critical rate and critical damage, so it doesn't matter what DPS character you're using, she synergizes well with all of them, especially Ezio. Meanwhile, Honkai Star Rail doesn't have any such feature, so it's entirely possible that your top tier DPS party that you spent $1,000 trying to get could get power creep the shit out of in a future patch, with your ass getting completely destroyed if you don't put out more money to completely rework your team. I hate it when games do this shit, and Honkai Star Rail is sinfully guilty of power creep like this. Man, fuck this game. Fuck this fucking shit to hell.
I'm trying to keep a level head here, folks. I really am. But it is damn near impossible when I'm dealing with a game with such flawed design that I haven't played since Wizard 101. Seriously, what is with the HP inflation and power creep in this game? Hoyoverse has a very bad habit of pulling crap like this, even though we, the community, have told them to knock it off. Seriously, I spent the time to get a good Firefly with a good team comp that could comfortably handle all the content back in her patches, and now Hoyo expects me to put out hundreds of dollars to get a new team comp just so I can handle the new content without ripping my hair out? Give me a fucking break.
Oh, come on, Bulldozer. You're just exaggerating now. Surely it can't be as bad as all that.
Fucking Melody, have you ever even played this game yourself? I'd fucking rather slog through Age of Conan again than freaking deal with this unholy piece of programming.
Well, that's definitely going to offend someone.
Who gives a shit?
Geez, Bulldozer Man, you need to calm down. The power creep problem isn't nearly as bad as people make it out to be. Firefly's comp can still comfortably get through the game if you play it right, with only a couple of exceptions. I will agree that the HP inflation does tend to get pretty ridiculous and overwhelming near the end of the game, but at least the game isn't making you run across half an hour of emptiness between each battle. You gotta admit that.
Which I think would mean more if the game's design wasn't so shit. I don't care if this game isn't the vast, bloated expanse of nothingness that Teyvat was. It just means you're getting to the next boss that will undoubtedly curb stomp your outdated party into the dust even faster. And that's assuming you don't fall asleep during the game's many cutscenes, many of which in the later half of the game are missing voice acting because of Hoyoverse's many blunders with their English VAs. And that's an entirely different can of worms I'm not even gonna approach in this video. But we're talking cutscenes that, once again, can rival the Metal Gear Solid series in terms of length. And when half the characters in these scenes don't have any voice acting, yes, I'm gonna bitch. Honestly guys, I really wanted to like this game. I really did. Firefly is awesome, I had some genuinely good laughs during the earlier story segments, and the game has some great mechanics in it that are entertaining to learn without feeling like it's bashing you over the head with them. Crappy gacha mechanic and late game boss mechanics notwithstanding, but a combination of HP inflation, power creep that would make Yu-Gi-Oh! Blush, and poor management of the game's English VAs that led to many delayed game cutscenes missing voice acting, it all just ended up turning me off of this game. Much like Genshin Impact, this game just feels soulless now, and it's why after this review I likely won't be going back to it, especially with, reverse 1999 around.
At least the soundtrack is awesome. This game has some of the best music you will ever hear in a gacha game. Hoyo Mix is delivering music that wouldn't be out of place in a big budget movie. It's outstanding. There you go. This game's got some grade A bangers in its soundtrack. That alone makes it worth playing.
I mean, I can just listen to the game's soundtrack on YouTube, so yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sakes, could you try and be a little bit nice to this game? You act like you really hate it or something.
Well, I didn't really like the game, so no. Reverse 1999 is way better.
Oh, come on. The cutscenes in this game are outstanding, you gotta admit that. They feel so grand and epic and
Which unfortunately doesn't account for much when, the bulk of this game's cutscenes are pretty much the same as Genshin Impact's. Just the characters standing around yapping at each other. For the most part, using the same, animations and facial expressions that I gave Genshin shit for. I sort of accepted it in that game because it came out 3 years ago. But this is a later game, released a lot later with later patches and whatnot. They seriously couldn't have, improved the story presentation a little bit. Just a little. Man. The freaking morons who designed this game have all the intelligence of a brick combined. Did my fucking family design this thing? What the?
I know I've probably offended a lot of you with my takes on this game, but this is genuinely how I feel about this game. I once thought it was a masterpiece, but now it's a masterpiece soiled by time. I won't condemn this game's success or the people who made this thing. I still think there's a genuinely good game here. It's just that it's buried under 50 tons of bullshit that requires a little too much money to ask of most of its players. The story is amazing, the music is a bop, and I genuinely like the design of a lot of these characters. And the whole sci-fi aesthetic this game has going for it is outstanding. But its flaws are just too numerous to ignore, and I seriously doubt Hoyoverse is gonna take the time to repair it. I can safely say I love Reverse 1999. It's the pinnacle of the gacha genre, as I previously said, and is the benchmark I hold all other gacha games to when talking about the design and how well they hold up. Reverse is a game I can comfortably come back to any day, any time, because of how well it's designed and how it avoids problems like power creep. Honkai Star Rail, not a six-faced iceball's chance in hell.
Oh, thank God. Finally got this review done and over with. And I apologize for those of you who are waiting so long for this review. It took a lot out of me to freaking do this damn thing. Hell, I didn't even bother, reinstalling the game to record footage of it. I just grabbed a bunch of footage from other, from other channels. Links to which will be down in the description below. Yeah. It took more than you realize to, review this damn thing, considering, I don't like it anymore, but, for those of you who waited patiently for this, review to, hear my thoughts about it, I hope you guys, got what you asked for. But I ain't doing another, review of this caliber for a long, long time. I can guarantee you that.
Is this truly the end of the road with us in Hoyoverse? Most likely. It's sad, but we're not playing their games anymore. And Hoyo's future is uncertain with the amount of drama and controversy they're dealing with. But I'm sure they're more than proud of what they've accomplished with these games. Who knows? Maybe one day they'll get their act together and make something that draws us back in and doesn't shit the bed again. But as of right now, we at Bulldozer Studios are closing the book on Hoyoverse and moving on.
Yeah, thank God too is what I hear some of you saying right now, huh? Yeah, this Hoyoverse train ride's been going on for quite a while, and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of satisfying that we're at the end of the line now. But right now, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, right now. If you have a game that makes Wizard 101 look like a more well thought out and put together game by comparison, you need to do the world a favor and stop making video games. Seriously, no shit, no exaggeration. With all that said, thank you for joining me for this review. Melody, you can go now.
All right, but I just want to ask when the next episode of the Torum Gang is going to be.
Well, shit, I don't know. Between all this bullshit I'm dealing with, with my family and, helping Ren cope with her crap, it could be a while, so... Yeah, we'll just have to see, like, what happens.
Well, hopefully things work out okay. Anyway, yeah, I better get back before Chris gets bored. Thanks for having me, Bulldozer Man. I'll see you later.
Well, I guess we're done here. I'm not sure how to end off this video now. Ugh. Yeah, I talked about the game in detail. I let Melody join me for this one. I'm not sure how to conclude this video. Well, I will say now that there's been some pretty intense stuff, going on, over here on my end, and I don't know what's gonna happen next or, what, but I'll do my best to keep you guys, posted on Blue Sky. I know someone over there has been raising hell, in response to all this crap recently, and so don't know what's gonna happen. But hopefully nothing that'll prevent me from, coming back here and making more videos for you guys, because I genuinely, just freaking adore you guys. You guys and your support are the reason I keep cranking out these things, so I guess until whatever video comes out next, probably something Minecraft related, I will say thank you for watching, and I will see you later. Oh, and before I forget, Firefly is best girl. You screwed up with her, Hoyoverse. Don't you dare try and deny it. See ya.